At exactly 0347 hours on March 26, 2026, the night sky above the Strait of Hormuz ignited, not with stars, with fire. 3 Noor anti-ship cruise missiles, Iran's domestically upgraded version of the Chinese C-802, punched through the darkness at Mach 0.8, hugging the wave tops at a height of just 5 meters, their radar cross-section smaller than a seagull. The target, the USNS Joshua Humphreys, a fleet replenishment oiler carrying 180,000 barrels of aviation fuel, positioned 11 nautical miles west of Bandar Abbas. The first missile struck the port quarter. The explosion was visible from space. In the 47 seconds that followed, the Humphreys broke in two. Of her 660-person civilian crew, 214 never made it to the lifeboats. The burning wreckage began to drift, blocking the deepest shipping lane in the lower strait, a waterway that, in peacetime, carries 21 million barrels of oil per day. In wartime, it had just become a coffin. This was not an accident. This was the opening move of Operation Basijidaria, the sea mobilization, Iran's last and most dangerous gambit. Trump's 48-hour ultimatum had expired 19 minutes ago. 80 nautical miles to the southeast, aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, CVN-78, the Carrier Strike Group 12 battle staff had been awake for 31 consecutive hours. The Ford's Combat Direction Center, nested 6 decks below the flight deck, was a cathedral of flickering blue light. The /Spy 6V, one air and missile defense radar, was painting the Persian Gulf in concentric rings of threat data, its sensitivity so acute it could track a cruise missile the size of a garden hose at 550 kilometers. Right now it was screaming, "Strike Alpha, vampires, vampires, multiple inbound, bearing 340, classified hostile, count 14. The tactical action officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah No, didn't hesitate. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. Weapons free. CIWS to auto. VLS cells 1 through 12, birds away. The Ford's Mk-41 vertical launch system erupted. SM-2 Block IIC standard missiles punched skyward at Mach 3.5, each one guided by the Spy SXS fire control channel in a continuous wave of terminal intercepts. The close-in weapon system, the 20mm phalanx, spun up to 4,500 rounds per minute, its last-ditch radar-controlled, Gatling a final wall of steel between the carrier and annihilation. 7 of the 14 inbound Noor and Fateh, 110 ballistic missiles, were destroyed. 7 were not. What the Ford's crew did not yet know was that the missiles were a feint. Simultaneously, beneath the dark water of the strait at a depth of 47 meters, 2 Kilo-class submarines, Yunus and Tariq, had been drifting silently for 11 hours, their diesel engines cold, riding the current like ghosts. Iran had learned the lesson of acoustic detection. These submarines generated less than 90 decibels, quieter than a library. The SQQ-89AV, 15-towed array sonar aboard the USS Lady Gulf CG-55 had missed them completely, masked by the cavitation noise of 2,000 stranded commercial vessels still trapped in the strait. At 0348:12 hours, the Yunus opened its aft torpedo tube hatches. The acoustic signature, a distinctive metallic clunk classified as a transient 7 event in NATO's STANAG 1188 library, was detected 4.3 seconds later by an MH-60 Seahawk helicopter conducting a dipping sonar pattern 6 kilometers away. The pilot's transmission was 3 words: torpedo in the water. The USS Lady Gulf had 38 seconds. The /SQQ-89F sonar suite processed the torpedo bearing in real time. The Lady Gulf executed an emergency full-speed turn to starboard, 32 knots, her gas turbines screaming to maximum power, while simultaneously deploying /SLQ-25C Nixie torpedo decoys, 2 streamed behind the ship on thin cables, generating false acoustic signatures designed to seduce the torpedo's passive homing head. The first torpedo followed the decoy. The second did not. The Yunus had fired a Mark 48 ATCAP equivalent, an Iranian-manufactured UT-27, with a dual-mode seeker, passive acoustic primary, active terminal. At 200 meters, the UT-27 switched to active ping, saw through the decoy noise, and reacquired the Lady Gulf's true hull signature. Impact: port side amidships, frame 97. The warhead: 300 kilograms of PBXN, 103 high explosive, detonated beneath the waterline. The shock bubble collapsed inward, breaking the keel. The Lady Gulf rolled 38 degrees in 4 seconds. 193 American sailors went into the Persian Gulf. Water temperature: 28 degrees Celsius. Shark density: critical. The clock was now running against the United States. In Washington, the National Military Command Center registered the loss of the Lady Gulf at 0349 hours local Bahrain time. General Marcus Webb, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, was already on the secure video terminal to CENTCOM Forward Headquarters in Al Udeid, Qatar. What is the forward's defensive posture? Sir, we have a problem. The SBY-6 took a hit from an Iranian Karman EW pulse. We're operating on auxiliary radar only. The forward is partially blind. This was the stroke of genius embedded inside Iran's doctrine. Operation Basic Daria had not been designed to sink the forward. It had been designed to blind it. 12 hours before the oiler strike, 3 Iranian Sijin trawlers, disguised as fishing vessels, registered in Oman, had positioned themselves in a precise equilateral triangle around the forward strike group. At the moment of the opening missile salvos, all 3 vessels activated Karman series electronic warfare pods, jamming and /spy, 6 fire control channels across the J and X radar bands, degrading the forward's ability to assign SM. 2 intercepts to inbound threats. The result: a kill chain delay of 8.7 seconds per engagement. In the hypersonic threat environment of the Persian Gulf, 8.7 seconds was the difference between interception and catastrophe. Iran had turned the world's most advanced carrier into a guided weapons platform with a cataract. At 0401 hours, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy, the IRGCN, initiated the second phase. From Bandar Abbas, Keshem Island, and Abu Musa simultaneously, 220 Bagamar fast attack craft launched in swarm formation. Each boat carried a team of 4 IRGC Special Forces operators, 2 RPG, 29 launchers, and a twin-mounted 12.7mm DSHK heavy machine gun. They moved at 42 knots, 78 kilometers per hour, in a radial attack pattern designed by the IRGC's Quds Force Tactical Doctrine Division after studying the 2006 Hezbollah assault on the INS Hanit. The doctrine was simple: overwhelm the point defense. 220 boats cannot all be killed before some reach the carrier. The forward's escort group, destroyers USS Stout, USS Carney, and frigate USS Constellation, opened fire with their 5-inch Mk-45 guns, -38 Malawian Quachas 25mm chain guns, and all available machine gun mounts. The slaughter in the water was immediate and grotesque. Bagamar hulls exploded in fountains of white spray and orange flame. IRGCN operators were vaporized at 400 meters by 25mm Apex rounds. But the math was working against the Americans. For every boat destroyed, 2 more surged forward through the smoke. The Constellation fired her ESSM Block 2 battery dry in 11 minutes, 32 missiles gone, 31 fast attack craft destroyed. With her clothes and magazine empty, a wall of 14 surviving Bagamar craft reached the 500-meter perimeter and began raking the destroyer's superstructure with RPG fire. The forward's flight deck went to emergency lockdown. 14F divided by a -18E Super Hornets, fully armed with GBU, 39 small-diameter bombs and AGM, 88 air-GM anti-radiation missiles, were grounded. The most powerful conventional military asset on Earth, 100,000 tons of American steel and 90 aircraft, was unable to strike back. The reason was already known in the forward SIGINT suite, even if no one had yet said it aloud. Sir, we are tracking a coherent electronic suppression network. Source is triangulated to a hardened C2 node inside the Straits of Hormuz Operational Control Center, SHOC, Bandar Abbas, Grid 27-16N, 56-15E. This is the network hub. Kill the hub, the jamming dies, the swarm loses coordination, and the fast attack boats revert to independent operation. Without central fire control, they're blind. Lieutenant Commander No looked at the Admiral. The Admiral looked at the clock. 0421 hours. The Ford had 19 minutes of viable defensive ammunition before her inner ring was breached. There was only one asset close enough, quiet enough, and lethal enough to reach that building in 19 minutes. SEAL Team 6, Gold Squadron, 8 operators, already inserted. They had been on the ground for 4 hours. Chief Petty Officer Alejandro Vasquez, call sign Atlas 1, led the element through the coastal industrial district of Bandar Abbas in 2 appropriated Iranian panel vans. They moved without NVGs, relying on /PVS, 31C white phosphor monoculars clipped to their OpsCore Fast MT helmets. Each operator carried in 416 Hong Kong dollars A5 with Surefire SOCOM suppressor, 10 mags of 5.56 Stanag, and a Glock 19X as backup. The team's breachers, Petty Officers Cruz and Delacroix, carried breaching shotguns and 200 grams of M112 demolition charge shaped for internal wall detonation. The SHOC building, Straits of Hormuz Operational Control Center, was a 4-story reinforced concrete structure disguised as a Port Authority logistics office. The Quds Force had selected the site precisely for its civilian appearance. Satellite dishes on the roof, fiber optic trunking running underground to IRGC command nodes across the city, and, critically, a 200 kilowatts diesel generator array in the basement capable of operating the Karman EW system independently of the national grid. 4 IRGC sentries were posted on the exterior, 2 rooftop, 1 lobby, 1 patrol. Vasquez had 12 minutes to clear all 4, breach the EW suite on the 3rd floor, and plant the M112 charges before the Ford ran dry. 0:12:00 on the clock. The outer sentries went down in 4 seconds. 2 suppressed rounds each from Atlas 2 and Atlas 3. Petty Officers Kim and Barrows, positioned 80 meters away in a 2nd-floor window of an adjacent warehouse. The IRGC patrol at the building's southeast corner didn't even raise his weapon. The lobby sentry heard nothing. He died 11 seconds later when Vasquez and Cruz came through the staff entrance using a cloned IRGC access card produced by NSA's Tailored Access Operations Unit 72 hours earlier. 3rd floor. The EW operations room was behind a Class 3 ballistic door, 20mm steel plate, magnetic lock, rated to absorb 7.62 mm AP without breach. Cruz placed a shaped charge against the lock housing with 4 seconds of adhesive dwell time. The team stepped back. The charge detonated, a precisely directed copper jet at 8,500 meters per second, shearing the magnetic bolt housing like cardboard. The door swung open. Inside, 8 IRGC signals operators, all turning from their consoles simultaneously. The expression on their faces was not fear. It was the specific recognition that comes from being perfectly and completely outmaneuvered. 6 seconds. 2 operators wounded. 6 surrendered. The Karman EW suite, 3 rack-mounted and 7B jamming units, each the size of a large refrigerator, was offline in 11 seconds when Cruz pulled the fiber optic trunk line and Delacroix detonated the demolition charge inside the main processor housing. The signal died. Aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford, the Spy 6 radar came back online like a curtain being ripped open. Fire control nominal. All channels restored. Lieutenant Commander No didn't wait. All batteries, weapons free. Suppression of enemy air defenses authorized. Strike packages Bravo and Charlie. Launch, launch, launch. The Ford shuddered as F divided by a -18 Super Hornets thundered off the electromagnetic catapult in 30-second intervals. AGM, 80 ARGM missiles detonated the remaining IRGC shore-based radar arrays within 4 minutes. Without radar coordination, the surviving Bagamar flotilla lost its attack geometry and fragmented into independent vectors, picked off one by the Stout's phalanx systems over the following 22 minutes. The 2 Kilo class submarines attempted to escape northwest, back into shallow water. AP, 8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft, circling at 8,500 meters, dropped 2 Mk-54 lightweight torpedoes. Both submarines were destroyed. At 0449 hours, the immediate kinetic threat to the Ford strike group was neutralized. The Strait of Hormuz, however, was not open. The burning hulk of the Joshua Humphreys, still blocked the primary deepwater lane. 17 miles of the world's most critical maritime choke point were covered in burning aviation fuel. 2,000 vessels still waited. In Tehran, the IRGC Supreme Council convened in the Vilayat Command bunker under Imam Khomeini Hospital. 47 meters of reinforced concrete between them and GBU. 57 massive ordnance penetrators. Acting Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of the assassinated Ali Khamenei, stared at the tactical board. The SHOC node was gone. The Lady Gulf had been sunk. 2 submarines were lost. 48 Iranian officers were dead. Bahrain had destroyed 143 Iranian missiles. Saudi Arabia had shot down 47 drones. The Gulf strategy had been executed precisely and had still only produced a tactical delay, not a strategic reversal. The math was brutal. Iran had expended 500 ballistic missiles and nearly 2,000 drones in 26 days of war. The stockpile was contracting faster than production could replenish it. The Karman EW network, 3 years and $800 million to build, was now rubble on a 3rd floor in Bandar Abbas, its operators either dead or in American zip ties, being loaded onto MH-60 helicopters over the Persian Gulf. Yet the strait was still partially blocked, and the world's energy markets were watching. The chessboard had been rearranged, but the game was far from over. Trump posted on Truth Social at 0612 hours Eastern. The strait will be open. Count on it. We are very close to finishing this. In Bandar Abbas, Atlas I collected his operators and moved to the extraction point. A DHC-7-SDOL aircraft in civilian markings, squawking an Omani commercial transponder code, on a gravel strip 4 kilometers east of the port. None of the 8 operators said anything for a long time. Chief Vasquez looked out the window as the aircraft climbed north over the Gulf of Oman, the orange glow of the strait still visible on the horizon. The Lady Gulf was at the bottom of the sea. 193 American sailors were still in the water. The strait was 40% unblocked, and somewhere in the deep water beneath them, an IRGC Goddard-class midget submarine, not yet detected, not yet neutralized, was moving slowly toward the ford's outer defensive ring, its torpedo tubes already loaded, its crew under orders to hold until the next window of Spy 6 degradation. The war had been raging for 26 days. It felt like it was just beginning.